All right, Alexis Diaz, 4.3 walks per 9. Last year was 4.8. Does Alexis Diaz finally, kind of get his walks, the only part of his game really to this point that hasn't been great? Zips does not like Alexis Diaz. I mean, I guess the perception, projecting a 3.90 ERA. I obviously didn't go with that one because I think we all would probably say that's probably a pretty easy under. I'm going to take the under on this one, fellas. I want to believe, but it's just too long of a track record of walking guys. And hey, to his credit, he's found a way to be effective still walking guys. I hope that he can improve, but I'm not going to bank on it.
So under meaning less
less, yeah, worse.
So over 4.3.
Yes,
a pessimistic over. Yeah.
Yes, I guess I should have clarified that. Yes. Yeah, I guess over is the right word. He will be higher than 4.3.
Yeah.
Let's go higher or lower. That might be the easier way to do this. Mitch, higher or lower 4.3 walks.
Have we been doing this wrong the whole time? I've always just been going over the number or below the number. So
that's what
is Nick just using over under as like a positive or negative thing?
That's
Nick's
how in my
whatever it comes down to is what he's going to do, Craig.
Yeah. I think we have a transcript. We have a transcript that you had to give some rationale. Mitch,
I took the higher number. I took the pessimistic over. I don't know about you guys, but as the season went on, did it seem like Alexis Diaz was getting better control? I didn't really think so. I didn't really see a reason to think he's going to beat his previous numbers in walk rate. So, yeah, I'm going the higher number than what is listed.
Bryce?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty easy one in my opinion. If a guy showed you who he is at age 27 or 26 or whatever he was, it's probably who he is. So, like you said, he can still be effective. He's been effective. So I think he's going to be fine. I think some are pretty worried about him. And I don't think it's an okay thing to be worried about him. And that's probably why the Reds have added and continue to add bullpen arms. So I think he's going to be the Reds closer for 2024. But there may be some times where he does not finish the game there. So we'll see.
Craig?
Yeah. 4.8 last year, 4.7 the year before. I mean, his attack, the way he attacks batters is outside of the zone and getting them to try to reach. So I don't necessarily see that changing in any way. I don't know why it would. It's worked for him. My projection for Alexis Diaz is all-star closer to not the closer at all this year. So I think the Reds are going to go closer by committee. So I think he will pick up some saves this year. But I think that the bullpen has added some arms with some stuff that I think can end games. I also think that they saw some things out of guys last year that will show potential. But I think that the depth that they have is going to give them an opportunity to really play matchups here at the end of the game in 2024. And so for me, I wouldn't be shocked to see Alexis Diaz pick up saves. Don't get me wrong, but he's not going to be your everyday closer. I don't think he changes his approach to pitching at all because it's worked for him. The question that Nick and I spoke about multiple times during the season last year was, when are teams going to realize that 90% of pitches from Alexis Diaz are outside of the zone? That may happen this year. It may not. We'll see. But if teams ever decide to just go up there and not swing at Alexis Diaz, that walk number might be infinity.
That's fair.
I like that take, Greg.
I'm concerned a little bit on Diaz. I don't know if I'm necessarily that far. I think your points are valid. Don't get me wrong. The one thing he has not given up home runs at the big league level. I mean, up 0.7 in 2022. Last year, which he didn't have as good of an ERA, it was 0.5. So, half a home run per 9 innings. That is a huge reason why he's been such an effective closer, is that he just doesn't give up the home run ball. And that might be honestly the biggest difference between him and Lucas Sims, is that Lucas Sims has kind of struggled giving up those home runs in those situations. I want to go around the room on this. Maybe your concern level with Alexis Diaz from a 1 to 10. I'm going to put it at a 5. I'm going to be right there in the middle. I think he is the closer going into opening day. I think it's possible that Sims or Pagan or even someone else maybe steps up and does, take that, or it does become a closer by committee, like Craig said. But I'm going to put it at 5. Bryce, where are you at on 1 to 10?
Yeah, I'm probably at like a 7 overall.
Okay.
Some interesting numbers from July on. So July till the end of the season, 31 innings pitched. He only struck out 29 guys and walked 17. That's an 8.33 K per nine and a 4.88 walk per nine. Like, those are numbers that you don't feel overly comfortable with in the ninth inning. You want very minimal base runners, and it felt like from July on, it was 2 or 3 base runners every inning, and he was trying to work out of something, or Cruz had to come in, or Maul had to come in. So I'm like probably a 7 or an 8, but I mean, I still like him. I think he's a quality reliever.
Mitch, 1 to 10.
5. I haven't thought about him much this offseason. I'll be totally honest. I know there was a little skid at the end of the year. I think he was gassed. He doesn't have a ton of experience throwing that many innings, so I think he'll come out starting the year strong, and we'll see what happens after that. Hopefully he's building up some durability, but I haven't used too much thought on Alexis Diaz this offseason. Maybe I should have, but I'm a 5.
Craig, what was your number?
I don't know that concern's the right word for me with Alexis Diaz. Like, I'm not necessarily concerned about the stuff or his ability to get outs. I just think that he needs to be put in the right position to do it. And I think that in 2023, teams were adjusting to his approach. And I think that being able to put him in better positions will allow him to pitch Alexis Diaz's game rather than having to adjust to the batters or the opposing team. I concern is like a 3. I just don't think he's going to be needed in the same type of role that he was last year. And I think, again, I'm going to talk about it a lot, but I just think that the depth is going to permit guys to be put in positions to be successful that they've shown in the past that they're able to be successful in.
I would be a little concerned on Alexis Diaz, how he would accept not like maybe not. I'm not saying like he's going to throw a temper tantrum if he's removed from the closer role, but how would he adjust is maybe the right way to say this. If you did move him out of the closer role, because he seems to really embrace that. Like, his brother's the big closer, has the big interest. He wants to be that guy. I almost feel like he could be one of those players that could maybe lose a little bit of what makes him good if you did move him into like a 7th inning guy or something like that. But to Mitch's point, I do think that the games number is very important to look at with Alexis Diaz. 2019, he only threw 25 games, or 27, counting the 2 levels he was at. 2021, he only threw 35 games. 2022 was 59, and then 2023 was 71. So that's a huge increase in workload, and he was the guy as the closer. And, remember, he was so dominant. Like, what was it? 21, 22 saves in a row, something like that. And the Reds needed every single one of those to stay in the race, and really relied on him and the bullpen so heavily. So I'm interested to see if maybe, you have Pagan to where we don't have to, remember there was times last year where David Bell didn't want to use Alexis Diaz. Like, it was pretty clear, like going into like this 8th and 9th inning, he wanted to avoid using him. And then things got away from the bullpen and he ended up throwing him in there. And it felt like every time it backfired. But I don't think you'll maybe see those games next year. And I wonder if avoiding that will help him stay on track a little bit more throughout the season. Greg?
So I think when you look at last year, and you talked about how is Alexis Diaz going to respond to maybe not being the everyday closer. To me, Alexis Diaz can be your high leverage guy, right? And that doesn't necessarily have to be in a closing role. I think when you have a closer like Alexis Diaz was last year, especially early on in the year, you probably felt like, okay, he's got to throw the 9th inning, he's got to pick up the save, and that's what his role is going to be. But when you look at the numbers last year, his high leverage numbers were amazing. I mean, he gave up OPS of 565. His batting average against was 184. I'm going to talk about these stats later on as well, but his SOPS plus, which is basically his OPS plus in that split specifically compared to the league, was a 56, which for a pitcher, you want it to be below 100. 100 is the league average. And so for him to be a 56 in high leverage situations compared to low leverage situations where he gave up a batting average against a 237, an OPS of 817, and an SOPS of 125. Now you look at Alexis Diaz as your high leverage guy, and in situations where you need a big out, that's where you can bring in Alexis Diaz and not be afraid to burn him in the 7th because you have other guys that you trust in the 9th. And so for me, when I talk about putting people in positions to be successful, Alexis Diaz is a high leverage pitcher. He's still going to walk guys. He walked 23 guys in 185 plate appearances. So whatever that math works out to be, it's still a little bit higher than you would like to see. But at the end of the day, when he only gave up 22 runs total in those high leverage situations, and you got to imagine that of the 71 games that he pitched in last year, I would imagine 50 plus of those were high leverage, and to only give up 22 runs in those situations probably shows you some confidence in his ability to handle those situations. So for me, Alexis Diaz becomes your high leverage or mid leverage situation guys because you trust guys in the 9th inning.